guys, welcome back to Intuitive Angling, and really appreciate you guys joining me for today's episode. And I want to have a conversation today, guys, why bass tournament payouts are in the toilet right now, and they've been in the toilet for a while, especially over the past 2 or 3 years, and there's really no end in sight to it. I don't see it getting better, but I'm going to explain to you how we got into this position, and I'm going to explain a way out of it, because when I say that I don't think there's any way out of it, I say that because, in my opinion, guys, a lot of the major tournament organizations are now not really run by the most qualified people to do so. And I'm going to give some tips and advice to those people on how to increase the payouts in their tournaments here. Also, guys, a couple quick things here. See my sunglasses here, my RB3s, or actually these are RB2s I got on right now. Today is the final day of the sale, the 250th anniversary sale. If you're interested in getting a pair, guys, you can get them right now at 50% off. I'll have the Solar Bat link in the description of this video if you guys would like to get you a pair of the RB2s or 3s. Much appreciated with that. And also, guys, thank you for everything that everybody's been doing to support Intuitive Angling. Man, if you've been purchasing Bridgeford food products at Walmart or your grocery store, using the links, you know, for my tackle warehouse, you guys are really helping the channel staying on YouTube, so I really appreciate that. Okay, guys, I think I'm sort of uniquely qualified to speak on this because I've been fishing professionally since 1986, and I've been there, done that. I've seen the sport, and I've seen the evolution of it and the de-evolution of it, you know, throughout the decades. And before I get into this, guys, pretty much their bass fishing tournament payouts have never been great except for a very small window of time from about really 1999 to about 2003. There was a window there where it was really good for the payouts and sponsorships. I'll get into that a little bit in the video. But other than that, bass tournaments historically have been, the payouts have been bad. And it's basically they've been just to the point to keep angling. They've been just good enough to keep anglers from revolting and not fishing the tournaments. But we have not seen anything like we've seen the last 2 or 3 years in tournament fishing in terms of the discrepancy between the entry fee amounts and the payouts amounts. The entry fees have been increasing, you know, regularly on lots of different circuits. A lot of the top circuits now, guys, have a ridiculous, absolutely stupid, ridiculous entry fee of over $5,000. And on top of that, the payouts have been decreasing as the entry fees have went up. So what does this tell you about the marketing, the skills of the marketing people within those tournament organizations, that they are actually going backwards? We have had a situation where the payouts 20 and 30 years ago in tournament fishing and professional fishing are bigger than they are now, a lot bigger. You know, the Forest Wood Cup, several years, it paid $1 million for first prize. The Ranger M1 tournament paid $1 million for first prize. The Bassmaster Classic used to pay $500,000. Forest Wood Cup, you know, paid $500,000 and $1 million both. You know, some of the FLW tournaments that we fished, I used to fish, they had what was called the Opens, that several of the tournaments paid $250,000 for first on just a qualifying tournament. And now, and for basically half the entry fee or over half the entry fee. So, and now you've got super high entry fees. The payouts suck. Bassmaster Classic only pays $300,000 for first, which is the Super Bowl of bass fishing. And you know, same with everything like that. Payouts have just sucked. In essence, what this has done, I mean, bass fishing has always been tough, except for during that period I was telling you about. But it's basically turned bass fishing into nothing but a money pit for the financially elite to stay into it. Now, here's when it was sort of the evolution, how it got better, and why it's tougher now than ever. Back prior to when FLW was founded, all you had was the Bassmaster Tournament Circuit. You had the Redman Tournament Circuit, which was a weekend circuit, which is now the BFLs, which is a great circuit, don't get me wrong, but, you know, it's been expanded into Toyota Series and Major League Fishing and all this, so it's got watered down on the prestige for the weekend angler. But what happened, you know, during that period, it's like the payouts were decent relative to the entry fee and the payouts, but the sponsorship opportunities were a lot more prevalent because you didn't have 6 billion tournament circuits out there and 6 billions and billions of tournament anglers out there competing for a small pie of the sponsorship dollars. So even though the payouts may not have been big during that period, you still had more sponsor opportunities. Then in 1999, Walmart came along with the FLW Tour, and the Walmart vendors got on board, and it really skyrocketed the payouts. We had a lot of tournaments that had big money payouts, $20,000 down to 20th place. Entry fees were half of what they are right now, and it was a good time to be a pro angler. The sponsorship opportunities were there. If you could have some decent sponsorship, you could, and the money and the entry fees were at a pace where you could actually make a good living in fishing. And then it slowly started going away a little bit. Sponsors started dropping off when the Walmart vendor program, Walmart vendor program basically started dropping off when the president of Walmart, who was a good friend of Irwin Jacobs, when he left the company, they didn't have that bond that they had before. So when there was a change of hands in there, those sponsorship dollars sort of started to go away. And then the nail in the coffin was in 2008 when the stock market crashed and everybody, bailed out. It was just a terrible time for the fishing industry, and it never really recovered. Not really, it never did recover, because ever since 2008, the entry fees have consistently been going up, and the payouts have consistently been going down, to where you have a point right now where, if you go to some of those tournaments that have $5,000 entry fees, you're going to have $3,000 in expenses and all your miscellaneous stuff. And even if you make a $10,000 check for 40th or 50th place, the bottom part of the $10,000 check, you don't make any money. You're making about $1,000. And if you don't say you go through a dry spell where you don't make the money for 3 or 4 tournaments in a row, you've dug such a hole with your entry fees and expenses that you basically got to win a tournament just to break even. So it's a vicious cycle. Money pit is what it is. Now, here's the problem. Here is why we've got into this situation where the tournament payouts suck. It is all because of the advent, well, 2 things. The main thing is the advent of social media, and it's the inability of the tournament organizations to effectively market their product to the public and to to corporate America and to the fishing industry. The messaging has been terrible on it, and they simply don't have the deliverables. If you're a tournament organization in the world today, when you're competing against social media influencers and social media, powerhouse ability to generate impressions, the tournaments can't do it, guys. It's like you can take Bassmaster or MLF, you can combine all of them together, and the amount of impressions generated from basically their resources on filming the tournament, they can't even compete against 1 or 2 YouTubers that are getting a massive following. And therefore you're seeing a lot of the companies, not a lot, most all the companies, are starting to put their marketing dollars into social media influencers and not tournament anglers or tournament organizations. That's been one of the things with it. And the tournament organizations have not really adopted to that. They haven't adapted to it, in that sense. So on top of that, you've got so many people that want to fish tournaments now, and you've got so many tournament organizations that there's just not the money to go around. I mean, the fishing industry endemically is pretty small, and even the non-endemics can see that, the amount of impressions that these organizations generate is not a value to them in comparison to social media influencers. That's the world that we live in right now. So what it has done, in essence, it's making it tougher and tougher and tougher for an angler to make a living as a professional angler, and that's why we're seeing so many of the iconic anglers exit the sport, because they can't afford it. And you're seeing so many younger anglers that come from wealthy families, or some guys out there that own their own businesses, they're independently wealthy, they're taking the place of the traditional super hard working, hardcore bass angler that didn't have any other income stream except through fishing. and they're being replaced with people that have, you know, independent wealth through other means. That's the reality of the situation. I'm not saying that is across the board for every situation, but it is, the majority is like that, and it's getting a bigger majority all the time. So we're at a weird place right now in professional fishing, and one of the biggest things about it, guys, there's just too many tournaments. There's too many tournaments, and there's too many tournament organizations for the money to go around. And I've always said before, it's like the bass fishing, the worst thing that ever happened to bass fishing, you know, in the bigger picture, was when FLW came along, because FLW basically took Bassmaster as the top dog on the heap and knocked them down, and they've never recovered from that. And all these other, you know, secondary circuits that tried to compete and take up some of the slack, they've hogged up a lot of the pie too. The only thing that would really save this sport, as far as that goes, is if all the other, what is called the big money tournament organizations, if they went away and Bassmaster was the only tournament organization, professional tournament organization on the block, and if they were, you know, basically owned by the anglers, if they were a nonprofit organization owned by the anglers, just like, you know, having a situation like, you know, have the NFL or Major League Baseball or the PBA or the PGA, all these type of things, they sort of identify you as a professional in those sports. And bass fishing doesn't have it. Bass fishing has everybody calling themselves professionals, and every tournament organizations call themselves a professional tournament organization, and that basically hurts the anglers. What it does, I mean, it waters down the ability of the organizations to generate a good profit, and it also makes it next to impossible for the tournament anglers to do so. So anyway, guys, it's just a vicious cycle, and this is one situation where competition is not a good thing, because competition in the realm of tournament bass fishing has ultimately hurt the entire sport in a big way, and it's hurt the anglers. So it just goes back to, you got guys coming in there, and this whole thing, they see an opportunity to make a profit and create a little business and create tournament circuits, and you see what you get. And I'm not talking about the smaller circuits, because there is a market for the local and regional circuits, especially the local circuits, because most people don't want to travel all the way across the country. But as far as the national circuits that are really the defining element of what professional fishing is, they've cannibalized themselves, and as a result, everybody's struggling because of it. So, you know, guys, let me know what you think about it. We'll talk later.